You are 22 years old. You work in a warehouse moving boxes that contain things you will never be able to afford. You punch a clock at 6 a.m., you punch out at 4 p.m. Your watch doesn't measure your success. It measures exactly how much of your life you are currently trading for $14 an hour. You don't wear the plastic watch because you like it. You wear it because your real watch is sitting in a drawer at home. It's a scratched stainless steel Seiko that your father wore for 30 years. He gave it to you the day you moved out. He drove a delivery truck his whole life, his hands permanently stained with grease and hard work. When he handed it to you, the metal band was broken. He told you, fix the band when you make your first real paycheck. You haven't fixed it yet because fixing it costs $40, and $40 is your gas money for the week. At this level, the world doesn't treat you badly because of your watch. The world simply doesn't look at you at all. You walk onto the subway, you scan your card at the grocery store, you hold onto the pole on the bus. Nobody looks at your wrist. To the world, you are invisible. You are furniture that moves. The plastic watch is just a uniform of the unseen. You check the time and you realize you're 10 minutes late, and you know exactly what those 10 minutes will cost you on your paycheck. You are always doing the math. Level 2, $250. You are 26 now. You finally got the office job. The salary is $45,000 a year, which feels like a fortune until taxes and rent immediately turn it back into a math problem. But you wanted to celebrate, so you went to a department store and bought a fashion watch. It has a massive face. It's plated in something that looks like rose gold but isn't. It has 3 smaller dials inside the main dial that don't actually do anything. You bought it because it looks heavy. You bought it because it looks like permission to belong. You wear it to work on a Monday. You intentionally pull your sleeve up a little higher when you rest your hands on the conference table. Your old friends from the warehouse see it on the weekend and whistle. "Moving up in the world," one of them says. You smile. For about 2 weeks, you feel like you tricked the system. Then the regional director comes in for a quarterly review. He's 45. He drives a quiet German car. You reach out to hand him a folder, and your oversized, shiny rose gold watch catches the fluorescent light. The director's eyes drop to your wrist. The glance takes less than half a second. He doesn't sneer, he doesn't say a word, but his eyes slide off your wrist like rain slides off glass, and you feel the exact moment you get categorized. He knows what a real watch looks like, and he knows what desperation looks like. The watch you bought to make you look wealthy is acting like a neon sign screaming that you're not. You realize the hardest lesson of level 2. You can't buy your way into respect by faking the uniform. The people at the top only read the real language, and your wrist is shouting that you don't speak it. You go home, take the watch off, and leave it on your dresser. It suddenly feels incredibly heavy, but not in the way you wanted. Level 3, $1,500. You are 30 years old. You're a mid-level manager now. You make $85,000 a year. You spent 6 months quietly putting away $100 every paycheck until you could afford your first real Swiss automatic watch. An entry-level Omega, or a used tag here. Stainless steel, sapphire crystal, a sweeping second hand that doesn't tick. It just glides. You put it on, and the weight of it is different. It doesn't scream for attention. It just sits there quietly vibrating with the pulse of mechanical engineering. You walk into a client meeting. The client is a man who runs a logistics company. You are negotiating a contract. You reach for your coffee, and the client notices the steel bracelet. He wears a similar brand. He pauses, looks at your wrist, and nods. "Good piece," he says. That is the moment the door unlocks. The watch just acted as a password. It told the client that you understand quality, that you have a little bit of disposable income, that you are a serious person who plays the game by the established rules. The contract gets signed an hour later. But the door swings both ways. You go back to your hometown for Thanksgiving. You sit at the kitchen table where you grew up. Your younger brother, who is struggling to pay off a truck loan, looks at your wrist. "Nice watch. What did that run you?" You freeze. You know his rent. You know he is drowning. You know that telling him you spent $1,500 on a piece of jewelry that does the exact same thing his phone does sounds like an insult. So you lie. You tell him you got it used for a few $100. Your father is sitting at the end of the table. His hands are still stained with 30 years of grease and hard work. He looks at your wrist, and then he looks at his own empty wrist, where the scratched Seiko used to be. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. You realize that the same watch that builds a bridge to a wealthy client builds a wall between you and the people who love you most. You start taking the watch off and putting it in your pocket before you walk into your mother's house. You have learned that success is something you have to start hiding from the people who prayed for it. Level 4. $10,000. You are 36 years old. You just crossed $250,000 a year. You hit a massive bonus and you walked into an authorized dealer and bought the icon, the Rolex Submariner, the Datejust, the universal, globally recognized symbol of "I have arrived." The shift in how the world treats you is no longer subtle. It is aggressive. You pull up to a hotel in a major city, and the valet's eyes drop to your wrist as you hand over the ticket. Suddenly, he's calling you sir with a distinct sharpness. He leaves your car parked right up front near the doors. You go to a crowded bar, and the bartender spots the polished steel and ceramic bezel from 6 feet away. Your drink is poured heavier. Your wait time evaporates. The world has decided you are no longer a person. You are an asset. They don't respect you. They respect the metal on your arm and the invisible bank account it represents. And the terrifying part is that you like it. You start angling your arm intentionally in meetings so the cuff of your shirt slips back just enough to reveal the crown logo. You sit in first-class lounges, and you catch yourself judging the wrists of the men around you. You look at a guy wearing a plastic digital watch, and for a split second, you dismiss him as unimportant. Then it hits you, cold and hard in the chest. You just dismissed the 22-year-old version of yourself. You have become the exact same executive who looked through you 10 years ago. The watch didn't just change how the world looks at you. It completely rewired how you look at the world. You've traded your empathy for a piece of jewelry, and you did it so slowly you didn't even feel it leaving your body. Level 5. $50,000. You are 45 years old. You are the CEO of your division. You sold a chunk of equity, and your net worth is sitting comfortably in the 8 figures. You wear a Patek Philippe or an Audemars Piguet, a watch that costs more than the average American makes in a year. It is a grand complication. It tracks the leap year. It tracks the phases of the moon. It is a masterpiece of human obsession. To 99% of the world, it looks like a plain, boring leather-strap watch. The valet doesn't notice it. The bartender ignores it. But to the 1% of the world that runs the economy, it is a deafening siren. You sit in a boardroom in Geneva or New York. The billionaire across the table sees the Patek. He doesn't say, "Nice watch." People at this level never compliment the money. They just speak to you slightly differently. They know you don't just have cash, you have access. You're part of the invisible club that requires an invitation. But then the phone rings. It's your mother. You take the call in the hallway. Your father has had a massive stroke. You charter a flight. You burn through logistics. You walk into the fluorescent-lit hospital room in your hometown. The room smells like bleach and old age. Your father is lying in the bed. The machines next to him are beeping a slow, steady rhythm. You sit beside him. You take his enormous, scarred hand in yours. You look down at your wrist. The $50,000 watch is ticking. The perpetual calendar tells you it's a Tuesday. The moon phase indicator shows a waning crescent. The sweeping hand glides perfectly, flawlessly, measuring out the exact seconds you have left with a man who built everything so you could stand where you are. You stare at the masterpiece on your wrist, and the ultimate crushing truth of the world finally breaks you in half. You spent 20 years and tens of thousands of dollars buying machines to measure your time, and not a single one of them can buy you back a single second. The poorest man in the world and the richest man in the world run out of time exactly the same way. You take the $50,000 watch off your wrist. You put it in your pocket. You reach into your travel bag where you have carried it for 23 years, and you pull out the scratched, broken band Seiko your father gave you when you were 22. You hold it in your hand while you listen to him breathe. You finally understand what he meant. Time was the only thing you actually owned, and you spent your whole life trading it away to impress strangers. Level 6. $100,000. You are 48 years old. You are no longer just an executive. You are a founder. You sold a piece of your company and you walked into a boutique in Geneva and bought a Richard Mille or a high-complication Vacheron Constantin, a watch that costs exactly what a starter home costs in the town where you grew up. At this level, the world doesn't just open doors for you, it removes them completely. You are no longer a customer the world serves, you are an asset the world protects. You walk into an exclusive charity gala. The room is filled with senators and CEOs. You extend your hand to greet a billionaire you've never met. He glances at your wrist. He recognizes the piece immediately because there are only 50 of them on Earth. He doesn't ask what you do. People at this level never ask what you do. They already know. The watch acts as a silent resume. It tells him you have capital, yes, but more importantly, it tells him you have access. It tells him you are playing the same invisible game he is. But outside those rooms, the watch becomes a liability. You go back to your hometown for a high school reunion. You are wearing a flannel shirt, trying to look ordinary, trying to blend in. But you forgot to take off the watch. An old friend, someone you played baseball with at 16, sees it. He Googles it under the table. When he looks back up at you, the friendship you remembered is gone. You see the calculation happening behind his eyes. You see the gap open up. You realize the saddest part of success is realizing that some people start treating your wallet differently than they treat you. You have become fluent in pretending to feel a squeeze you stopped feeling a long time ago. You complain about taxes, you order a cheap beer, but the $100,000 machine on your wrist is screaming that you are no longer one of them. And you realize that to pull ahead is in the end only another way of saying you pulled away. Level 7. $250,000. You are 52. You just wired $250,000 for an FP Journe or a rare vintage Patek Philippe at auction. You don't wear this watch to be seen. You wear it precisely because 99.9% of the human population has absolutely no idea what it is. To the valet, to the bartender, to the guy sitting next to you in first class, it looks like a simple leather strap watch. But you didn't buy it for them. You bought it for the 0.1% who understand the secret language of generational wealth. You are invited to private dinners in London and Dubai. You sit at tables carved from a single piece of wood, in rooms with no logos on the doors, where investments are brought to you before the world has ever heard of them. Nobody mentions money the entire night, because money is the table the night is built on, not the thing anyone says out loud. But the isolation is absolute. You are completely alone in a crowd every single day. Your oldest brother calls you. He needs $40,000 because his business is going under. You look down at your wrist. You are wearing 6 times that amount. You send him the money. He thanks you, but the resentment is thick in his voice. You understand that the gap between you is no longer something you could close by trying. It has hardened into something structural. The watch didn't buy you freedom, it bought you a golden cage, and you are the only one holding the only key. Level 8. $500,000. You are 58. You own a watch with a transparent sapphire crystal case, a mechanical impossibility. $500,000 ticking on your arm. You step out of a black car in front of a massive hotel. The doorman jogs over. The crowd turns. People lift their phones. For a second, you feel the rush of it. You feel like the kid who used to stand at the bus stop in the rain, watching the dry faces behind the glass, desperate to finally be seen. But then you look closer. You watch a guest raise his phone, and you watch in real time as he adjusts his angle, steps to the left, and crops your face completely out of the frame just to get a clean shot of your wrist. It hits you all at once, cold and hollow. You are the least important object in your own arrival. You spent 30 years climbing the ladder so the world would finally look at you. But they are not looking at you, they are looking at the metal. At the top, no one sees you at all, same as the bottom. The object got so big it swallowed the person inside it. You realize that the $15 plastic watch and the $500,000 sapphire watch do the exact same thing. They make you invisible. You just paid $500,000 to find that out. Level 9. $750,000. You are 62. You commission a piece unique, a watch made by a master horologist specifically for you, customized to your exact specifications. At this level, you don't apply for things, things apply for you. The world does not follow its own rules with you, it bends them, and it does it so smoothly you forget the rules were ever there. You walk into rooms and people applaud before you have done anything. But at night, you lie awake. You think about the $15 plastic watch you wore in the warehouse. You think about the rose gold fashion watch you bought to fake it. You think about the $1,500 Omega that opened the first door. You have spent 40 decades and millions of dollars buying machines to measure time. And yet, your knees ache when it rains. Your hair is gray. You wake up at 3 a.m. and realize that despite all the money in the world, your account of time is slowly draining to zero. The panic you used to feel about your bank account has been replaced by a quiet, crushing panic about your calendar. You realize that the only true luxury real power can afford is time, and you are running out of it. Level 10. $1 million. You are 65. The Holy Grail. $1 million watch. It is a Patek Philippe Grand Master Chime, or a piece unique Richard Mille. It doesn't just tell time, it tracks the leap year, the moon phase, the exact alignment of the stars. It is the absolute pinnacle of human obsession sitting quietly on your wrist. At this level, the world doesn't just treat you differently, it treats you like gravity. People warp around your schedule. You don't wait for meetings, meetings wait for you. The watch is no longer a flex, it is a crown. It is a Tuesday afternoon. A massive storm has grounded all private charters out of the city, so your security team had to reroute you through a public commercial terminal. You are sitting in the back corner of a crowded gate, surrounded by ordinary people for the first time in over a decade. A kid sits down 2 seats away from you. He's maybe 22 years old. He's wearing a faded work jacket and boots that are worn down at the heels. He's staring at a phone with a cracked screen, looking at a banking app. You know that look instantly. He's doing the math. He's trying to figure out if he can afford a meal before his flight or if he has to wait until he lands. You look down at his wrist. He's wearing a cheap black plastic digital watch, the exact same $15 pharmacy watch you wore 43 years ago when you were moving boxes in a warehouse. He checks the time on it. The cheap plastic strap is making his wrist sweat. He sighs, puts his phone away, and closes his eyes. He's completely invisible to everyone in this terminal. Then he opens his eyes and happens to look at your wrist. He sees the $1 million masterpiece. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know it costs more than the town he grew up in. To him, it is just a shiny watch on an old man. He nods politely, looks away, and goes back to worrying about his cracked phone. You sit there, surrounded by the noise of the terminal, and the most crushing realization of your life drops into your chest like a stone. You spent 4 decades climbing a brutal ladder. You traded your 20s, your sleep, your peace of mind, and the best years of your life to buy a machine that tracks the cosmos. But you look at the 22-year-old kid with the $15 plastic watch, and you realize the ultimate, unavoidable truth. His cheap plastic watch is measuring a bank account of time that is full. Your $1 million masterpiece is measuring a bank account of time that is almost entirely empty. He's rich in the only currency that actually matters, and you are terrified because you're running out of it. You would trade every dollar, every company, every perfectly tailored suit, and the $1 million watch on your arm just to be the invisible kid sweating under a plastic watch again, just to have the time back. The $15 watch and the $1 million watch do exactly the same thing. They count the seconds as they disappear. You just paid $1 million to finally realize that you can never buy a single one of them back. The cycle ends.